Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final review of the original Halloween series. I wish it could have gone out under better conditions, but this is what we got. Halloween Resurrection. Remember in the previous review I stated that Scream paved the way for more shitty Halloween sequels? Well, this film is a result of that. Ironically, Halloween Resurrection would also be responsible for paving the way for another series of questionable films with the Halloween name. So, what happened? Why did this sequel even get made? Did Michael not die? Again? If burning to a crisp wasn't a solid death, surely a decapitation would if you're not immortal. Well, Resurrection has an answer for that. The movie opens up with Laurie Strode in a mental institution. It turns out that Michael pulled a curse of Michael Myers' producer's cut and switched costumes with a paramedic. He injured the guy's throat to the point that he couldn't speak, then switched outfits. Thus, the coroners picked up the unconscious paramedic dressed as Michael, which then led to Laurie decapitating him. Now, if this explanation sounds convoluted and ridiculous, then congratulations, you're smarter than this movie's writers. For the longest time, I thought this explanation was just a rushed decision made so that we could have another Michael Myers sequel. But something happened in my most recent viewing of Halloween H2O. Now observe, as Michael is waking up, notice how he grabs at his face. It's as if Michael, quote unquote, is confused as to why there's a mask on his face. At first I thought this was just something from Resurrection, but I don't think it is. So it appears that they've had this bullshit twist planned from the start. The filmmakers most likely never planned on ending the series with H2O. They knew they could still milk the Michael Myers cow for a few extra bucks. And just how in the hell did they think having this plot twist was going to work or make any sense? Why wouldn't Michael just disappear like he usually does? Why didn't he just kill the paramedic and switch costumes? What was the point? The paramedics and coroners thought Michael was dead already, so if they checked the pulse of the body, they would have realized he isn't dead. Oh boy, I'm overthinking it, guys. This movie is too incompetent for these little things, which aren't actually little if you consider the fact that this opening sets up the rest of this ridiculous plot. And why in God's name did they decide to unmask the head of who was supposed to be Michael after they find the head instead of loading him up into the coroner's van? All this crap makes about as much sense as me calling a fucking coroner's van an ambulance. Seriously, I called the fucking coroner's van an ambulance! So after Laurie supposedly defeats Michael, we see they put his body in an ambulance. So ever since that night, Laurie's been silent while being in a mental institution. Funny enough, all of this is an interesting parallel to Michael and the time he spent at Smith's Grove. Recall back to what Dr. Loomis said about Michael staring out the window, and a nurse in this movie saying a similar line.
I watched him for 15 years, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night, inhumanly patient.
No, all she does is stare out that window. God knows what she sees out there.
Despite all the BS that will come up in this film, this opening is the most interesting part, minus the costume switch of the paramedic, and a few other things. We even get a little callback from the original Halloween, where Laurie's looking out her window, sees Michael standing there, and then he disappears. This is where the finale of Laurie's story in this original series crescendos. Laurie has been at this mental institution since 1998, and now Michael's found her. The next few scenes feature Michael stalking and killing. Some of the suspense is decent. It has some proper build up. It also has the cliche jump scare from another character wearing a mask before the real killer shows up. We've seen this countless times in other slashers, so they're sticking with the formula, which can be good and bad. Regardless, it turns out that Laurie was waiting for Michael. This is all a trap in an effort to end him for good. She lures him up to the roof and catches him on a hang rope by his foot. As he dangles there, Laurie picks up the knife and starts monologuing. She then asks Michael if he's afraid to die, and starts cutting the rope to have Michael fall to his death. Okay, why would she think the fall would kill him? This bastard has survived being shot, falling off a balcony, being caught in an explosion, burning to a cinder. What more can be done? But Michael pulls a clever trick. He starts grabbing at his mask in a similar way to how the paramedic grabbed at the mask, and this gives Laurie a moment of doubt, which ends up costing her her life. But something doesn't add up here. I get the idea that this would fool Laurie, but how would Michael know to do this? I mean, I suppose he could have read a newspaper or seen a report about what happened and pulled this move with the knowledge of the 1998 incident. But we don't see this, and the only other logical explanation is that Michael witnessed the killing. The thing is, we don't see this either, so at this point, we're just filling in the blanks for the writers, which is not a very good idea, but who cares at this point? 8 movies in, who really cares about the continuity? So as Laurie gets in close to unmask Michael, he grabs her, and as the rope breaks and they fall, Michael stabs Laurie. They have a good long look at each other, and Laurie kisses her brother on the lips.
No! 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 No!
Okay, yeah, I'm not even going into that shit. I think I've seen enough incest in the Myers family to last a lifetime. She tells Michael that she'll see him in hell as she falls to her death. And this is the last we see of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode until 2018. Michael walks into the room of the mental patient that was wearing the clown mask and gives him the knife for some reason. Michael walks off, and the clown guy starts spitting out facts of Michael's history, and we get the Halloween theme play as Michael walks down the tunnel. Then we get our title card. Now, this may come as a surprise to some of you, but I actually like this opening aside from the BS body swap stuff. It has some nice callbacks to the original film and actually makes Michael feel scary again. What helps sell this is Michael's mask. Yeah, we still see his eyes, but with that said, it has a real mean look to it. I think that this mask is one of my favorites, and the performer does a good enough job. It was a bold move to kill Laurie off so early, and that in and of itself is a nice callback to Jamie's mother, Janet Lee, whose character in Psycho was killed off early in the movie. All things considered, this is a solid opening. I wish the rest of this movie was solid, but some good moments in shit films don't make movies good. Funny enough, this will be a running theme I have going forward in these reviews. And mind you, it's not like I went into these movies ready to dislike them. It's just the filmmakers had plenty of opportunities to do this franchise right, and they just pissed it all away. Regardless of all that, and with the opening out of the way, what about the rest of the movie? Well, the gist of it is that an entertainment company called Dangertainment is setting up a kind of reality TV show where some people are going to investigate the old Myers house, Ghost Adventure style, and then get the piss scared out of them. 6 people are chosen, and funny enough, I actually recognize a couple faces. The first is someone that Star Wars fans will remember. That is Katie Sackhoff from The Mandalorian. Huh, never thought I'd see Bo Katan take on Michael Myers. The other is a little more obscure, but I remember her from one of my favorite comedy shows, Psych. This is Bianca Kaj- Kajlik? Jesus, that's one hell of a last name. Anyways, we also get introduced to the host of this Myers House event, Freddie Harris and Nora Winston, played by Buster Rhymes and Tyra Banks. Well, you've got no other star power left in the original cast of Halloween, so I guess it's time to bring in the celebrities. I wonder if their presence in this film helped with the box office a bit. Who cares? So we see our group meet up and discuss what this little event will entail, and we see the characters give individual interviews. The most noteworthy one is the character Bill, played by Thomas Ian Nicholas. The reason this is the most noteworthy interview is because of this line.
I just want to say that Michael Myers is not just a man behind a mask. He's a legend.
It's a nice little reference to Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th Part 6 with the song The Man Behind the Mask from Alice Cooper.
Almighty's back. He's the man behind the mask.
Anyways, the setup we have here is all the people going into the house are wearing cameras, and the show is being broadcasted on the internet. The late 90s and early 2000s had a huge surge in found footage and POV horror. Movies like The Blair Witch Project, REC, and Cloverfield are a few of the most popular examples. This movie is definitely a product of its time. Remember how I said H2O felt like Scream? Well, I'd say that Resurrection here is even more like Scream. And aside from a couple moments in the movie, Halloween Resurrection is the one film in this franchise so far that feels the most disconnected from the overall Halloween franchise. The suspense and atmosphere of the movie is nowhere near what John Carpenter was able to invoke. Also, the camera angles, look of the movie itself, and the characters all feel like Scream. This may just be because of the advancement of technology at the time, but that said, I still can't shake the feeling of familiarity. And if you like this look and feel of Scream, don't let me ruin it for you. Just try to understand my point of view. As a fan of these films, I don't want to see different franchises look and feel the same way. When I watch Friday the 13th, I expect cheesy acting, over the top special effects, and something to have dumb fun with. When I watch Halloween, I expect a good amount of fear and suspense, with a terrifying immortal killer. One of the problems with Resurrection is that it handles Myers in two ways. One is how we expect him to be, scary and intimidating. The other way is with comedy. I mean, when we see Michael come face to face with Buster Rhymes in a Michael Myers costume and he starts screaming at Michael, I would have expected him to waste the imposter without a second thought, but he just walks away. This conflict of tone is one of the reasons I become annoyed with modern films. Sometimes the filmmakers want us to feel a certain way, but then they inject something else into it that throws off how we're supposed to feel. Let's break it down. Whether it's horror movies or something like superhero films, the filmmakers insert bits of comedy in tense and stressful situations to alleviate pressure and let the audience breathe. In the case of horror films, it's necessary because if the whole movie is nothing but scary with no breaks in between, then the next scare won't be as effective. Many horror films do this and do it well enough. With that said, there are moments where these films will insert a bit of comedy that would either throw off a scene or a character. In the case of Resurrection, what we have seen so far with Michael is that he is dangerous and a force to be reckoned with. There is no comedy with him. Michael isn't like Freddy Krueger with cracking jokes or even talking for that matter. He's a silent and intimidating killer. So, Resurrection decides that it wants to change that. We get this scene with Buster Rhymes dressed as Michael to scare people in the house. Obviously, this isn't the first time we've seen a Michael Myers imposter. As he moves through the home, the real Michael is walking behind him. Now, in most cases, this is the point where the imposter character meets a grisly end. But instead, this happens.
You been at, man? Don't you know we've been looking all over this motherfucker for you? And why the hell you dressed like me anyway? I ain't paying you to be Michael Myers like that for. Huh? You don't get it? You don't get it? Your shit ain't working up there or something? I left the back door unlocked for your ass to go out the back into the garage. That's what I did. You need to get the hell out of here. Go ahead, scoot, skedaddle. Get the fuck out of Dodge.
Not only did Buster Rhymes get away with screaming at Michael, but he got away with repeatedly tapping him on the forehead. And as I said earlier, Michael just walks away. How exactly am I supposed to feel about Michael at this point? This conflict of tone and character lessens my enjoyment of this movie. As a Halloween fan with a great respect for the original film, this movie is the most removed in the franchise. At least the other entries took Michael and the story seriously. Halloween Resurrection is the one film that feels more like a horror comedy than a straight up horror film with comedic elements. With that said, I do find this scene funny in isolation, and Busta Rhymes is really the only entertaining aspect to this movie. But I wouldn't recommend anyone watch it. The other characters aside from Sarah are bland and uninspired, just more generic nobodies to get killed off in gruesome ways. Sarah is basically this movie's Laurie Strode. She's our final girl and does a good job all things considered. She shines the best in the final act of the film, but more on that later. The soundtrack is average at best. I sort of like the new rendition of the classic Halloween theme, but that said, the rest of the music is dull. Gone are the days where you have a genuine and creepy scene of two characters simply talking. I say that Dr. Loomis talking about Michael Myers to Sheriff Brackett in the original Halloween is one of the most effective scenes of expositional dialogue with unnerving music.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
The best way to sum up this movie is that it's a Halloween parody. It uses familiar elements from the franchise that it's in and makes jokes out of legacy characters. It's similar to how they portrayed the Terminators in Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, though as far as making jokes of legacy characters go, Rise of the Machines does it worse. I would say that the best this film has to offer is in the third act. When every one of the original 6 are dead except Sarah, she's at the mercy of Michael. However, because the broadcast is live, Sarah is getting help from a friend of hers. They communicate through her phone, and these scenes do feel genuinely scary and intense. There's some proper suspense, and it was pretty entertaining. The ending fight is also noteworthy entertaining, but in a cheap way. And we get one of the most ridiculous but funny lines that a horror film could offer.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
These kinds of one-liners and catchphrases are more reasons why I say it's more like Scream than Halloween. It's the kind of thing an 80s action hero would say. It gets even more silly like a slapstick comedy when Busta Rhymes starts pulling some kung fu moves with all the accompanying sounds.
What you got?
As they have their final fight in the shed, Michael gets shocked in the balls. Again, slapstick comedy. The shed catches on fire and Busta with Sarah on his back escape while Michael is left to burn. This is the second time Michael has been caught on fire. It's almost as if the filmmakers remember that's how he actually died in Halloween 2, and so they want to use it again. The shed is completely burned down. Buster and Sarah are okay, and they take Michael's body away. So we get a shot of seeing Michael in a body bag.
something very familiar about all this.
They take his body to a morgue and we get one last look at his face, and then his eyes open and we cut to black. Wow, another BS cliffhanger. You know, it doesn't matter how many times you burn this SOB, you can't kill the boogeyman. Or we should call him...
Looking a little crispy over there, Mikey. Like some chicken fried, motherfucker.
Well, we made it to the end, ladies and gentlemen. With Halloween Resurrection over, we've reached the conclusion of the original Halloween series. Well, until this. But we'll see that one soon enough down the road. Here we have yet another example of how far Halloween had fallen from that fantastic indie film from 1978. This movie bombed so bad that the cliffhanger we got at the end would never see a sequel. Instead, we would get a reboot. Yes, that reboot. So make sure to
stick around,
as next week we take on Rob Zombie's Halloween. A special thanks to Mother Mulder and Kyle Curtis Flett, part of the Dark Aether Files Patreon. So, with that all being said, thank you all very much for watching, listening, and supporting. And as always, my fellow investigators, remember, the entertainment is out there.
I'm Special Agent Spooky Clutter.
I'm Special Agent Carter Sauce.
Special Agent Dr. Richtofen.
And until next time, fellow investigators, remember...
The entertainment
is out there.
is out there.